co-host for Tuesdays. Well, let me tell you a little bit about her. Do you know, folks, this is National Be Kind to Lawyers Day. Oh. And my co-host, she is kind to everybody except
lawyers.
Maybe...
No, just kidding.
I was going to say, except maybe those in the mainstream media for obvious reasons. She is always looking super duper behind the wheel of her Mini Cooper. She is the Khaleesi of Leslieville. She is Natasha Biazzi. How you doing, Natasha?
Every time you do that, I feel better. So thank you so much for that warm welcome. So as David mentioned, this is our daily live stream, and we are currently streaming on YouTube, Rumble, Getter, and Odyssey. So be sure to send in your chats, your rants, whatever they're called these days, and we would love to read those throughout the show. How you doing, David?
I'm doing great. And, you know, we should tell the folks that typically on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would co-host with Sheila Gunn-Reid. We're still co-hosting together on Thursdays, but Sheila, as our chief reporter, as the Khaleesi of Khaleesi's, she is way too busy to do 3 live streams because she also does Monday with Adam Seuss. So you are now the new permanent co-host. And I got to tell you, I've been... doing this, I think, for years with Sheila on Tuesdays. And, well, I guess now I feel like I'm being a little promiscuous.
He's going to resign, folks. No, I'm just kidding.
So, but, this is great. And, of course, you are one half of the co-host team along with Catherine.
Yes.
For Misunderstood, right?
Misunderstood.
Now, I don't know why I said that like a Swede, folks. I have a problem with those compound words. But I guess on those days you can't make it, how does it work? Does Catherine fill in for you? I mean, because you're like a matching set, right?
Yeah, we are a dream team, so to speak. Yes, but on Tuesday, she actually is busy editing our show, which comes out tonight on Rebel News Plus at 7 p.m., so be sure to watch that. She's a busy girl as well. So
there you go. And as Billy Red Lyons used to say, when it comes to Misunderstood, don't you dare miss it. Now, enough of this chicanery and tomfoolery. We got to get to the news. And oh, joy, I love this. Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, that is, way out in Lotus Land, which tends to go lefty. My goodness gracious, did people honk their horns at them? They might, they must be white supremacists or neo-Nazis, because I thought honk, honk, at least according to one Liberal MP in Toronto, that's code for Heil Hitler?
I think so. Man, this must have been triggering for him. We have a clip to show you guys, so just give it a peek.
There he is.
Wear a mask. Outside.
Well, Natasha, a lot to unpack from that. First of all, as per usual, I counted, I think, an entourage of 5 SUVs and a couple of minivans, always with the engines running.
Great.
None of them plug-in hybrids or electrical cars, which we're being endlessly preached to purchase. And again, one law for thee, one law for me. He loves the big V8 Chevy Suburban, Ford Expedition SUVs because, well, he just does. Carbon-based fuels and giant SUVs are okay for the Trudeau Liberals. They're not okay for us, the great unwashed masses. And I got to tell you, I kind of get a little PTSD watching his Royal Canadian Mounted Henchmen following him because I go back to December. And maybe Mr. Producer can source this clip for later in case you haven't seen it, folks. But I was there with our ace cameraman, Lincoln J., on a public sidewalk outside a restaurant. And the caper was this, folks. We just wanted to ask Prime Minister Trudeau why his government was telling Canadians not to get together with friends and family on Christmas. Yet here he was at a fundraiser. I think it was called the Brickwork Cider House at Queen and Broadview, kind of near where you live.
Yep.
Please don't anyone stalk her. But now the mainstream media was allowed in. We were not, of course. So we stood on a sidewalk hoping to ask the Prime Minister a question, which he would either ignore or he would do that goofy smile and wave and make a beeline into the cider house. And I was physically assaulted. I mean, let's let the camera tell the story, folks. Okay. Roll now? Okay, that must be that.
Get out of the road.
Huh?
Look around. I hit my car.
Huh? Yeah, you'd like to see that.
I wouldn't like to see that at all. It needs a lot of paperwork for me.
Another gas guzzling vehicle.
What are you doing? Get off me. Hey, I can. Hey, this is assault. Move. I'm on a side. What is this? I'm on a sidewalk. I am on a side. What is this? You cannot touch me. No rushing over. Hey. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Let go of me. What is this?
Okay.
You can't. Am I under arrest? Am I under arrest?
And it goes on and on. That was absolutely a new level of deplorable for this Prime Minister. In the past, his entourage, I remember out in BC where this clip emanated from, our colleague Drea Humphrey was picked up like a little China doll and just moved over. But with me, they gave me the works. I suspect, we'll never be able to prove this, folks, that the Prime Minister himself saw the Rebel News mic flash and said to his thugs, give him the works. The thing is, but we'll get back to the reception he got in BC, Natasha. But here's the thing. They know who I am.
Yeah.
They see the Rebel News mic flash. I'm not there to harm anyone. I'm not carrying a concealed weapon. They know that. There was absolutely no excuse for that. I should also point out my colleague Sheila Gunn-Reid in the days ahead from the assault forwarded me some mainstream media articles in the CBC, the National Post, that indicated half of his entourage, folks, had COVID. And guess who came down with COVID shortly after that encounter? Yes, yours truly. That's where I was. I think this was absolutely despicable. The thing is, Natasha, you can either let us into the venue, but if you don't, you can't take ownership of a public sidewalk. No. I was only there to ask a question. What was your take seeing that video?
It makes my heart just beat so fast. I can't believe that our government would do that to a taxpayer on a taxpayer sidewalk just because you wanted to ask him a question and he doesn't agree with Rebel News and our approach to news, so to speak. And what's even worse is the fact that you wouldn't even be allowed in the restaurant because of, at the time, there were vaccine passports in place. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
It's just interesting. I can't believe that that's real. It's shocking to me.
It's really Banana Republic stuff. It reminds me a few years ago, and folks, you can Google this and check it out for yourself. It was our colleague Mocha that showed this to me initially, and I was in shock. It was Erdogan, the Turkish leader, in Washington, D.C., and there were Turkish Americans protesting his visit. And he's got this big entourage, just like Trudeau, a bunch of SUVs and limos. And out comes Erdogan's thugs. And they're kicking, they're laying haymakers on these Turkish Americans. The Washington police are just like watching. I mean, it is unbelievable. And here it is, it's come to our dominion. And you know what is especially despicable? Where is the Canadian Civil Rights Association, Natasha? Where are all the journalist groups like PEN and the Canadian Association for Freedom of Expression? Absolutely silent on this.
No, there's definitely a double standard. For sure. Yeah, definitely. And maybe going back just to the reception that Trudeau received in Vancouver, I mean, he's clearly not very well liked. So it's interesting that he has so much support from these organizations, from the news. It's a little bit shocking. Like, what's going on there?
Oh,
that he's
Natasha,
able, you know.
It's not shocking to me.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're part of the trained SEAL contingent in the mainstream media, and you're getting, well, with the CBC and Twas Ever Thus, over $1 billion a year.
Yeah.
With the mainstream media, more than $600 million a year. I mean, basically every media outlet, including, obscure trade magazines, is getting liberal money. So, Natasha, what I'm saying to you is, if you're a journalist and that's your sugar daddy, are you going to bite the hand that feeds?
No, absolutely not. It's shocking that our government seemingly needs to buy his love from our media.
And I want to, you've raised a really profound point. I want to do a search after we get off the air. I didn't have time before the show, folks. And I want to see the media coverage. Are they even going to mention the hostile reception?
No. I'd be shocked. I would be shocked.
I mean, a couple of weeks ago when Trudeau was in the European Parliament getting his arse handed to him, the CBC, in the lead, I think, of one of the CBC stories was how he received the standing ovation. And you look at the building, it's almost empty.
Yeah, by who?
It must have been the Invisible Man contingent, right? So, but, I think this augurs well for those of us who are clamoring for regime change. Pierre Poilievre is experiencing the precise opposite.
Right.
Even last week in a tiny little town like Lindsay, Ontario, over 1,000 people, Natasha, came out giving Pierre Poilievre numerous standing ovations. I saw it myself earlier this month at the rally in Don Valley in Toronto. Standing room only crowd. I thought the ceiling was going to cave in when he promised to defund the CBC. And I think this is a wonderful, perfect storm. It is showing the discontent out there over the Trudeau Liberals, and it is showing it's almost Trumpian, and I say that in a good sense, of this populist wave that Pierre Poilievre is riding. Here's the question. There is this unholy coalition, and to me, Jagmeet Singh is the biggest loser and coward and liar in Canadian politics. They keep admonishing the Trudeau Liberals, but they will prop them up until 2025. Does this government have the legs to stay in power until 2025? I mean, that's an eternity to infinity in terms of politics, Natasha. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I mean, so we have another clip coming up where Freeland is getting heckled, and I think that kind of also just speaks to the fact that, as you were saying, people are fed up, the tides are turning. I cannot see this lasting until 2025. I would be, again, truly shocked. I think people are really sickened by how Trudeau handled the truckers and the Freedom Convoy and the rhetoric around that. So I hopefully things shift. I'm not sure if the Conservative Party is going to be the one to do that for us. I'm still a bit wounded by how they've behaved in the last couple years.
100%.
But I'm hopeful, and yeah, maybe we should play this Freeland clip just to see.
Before we do, just to put an exclamation on this, what is tragic, however, I think if you are an NDP supporter, why would you vote NDP?
Yes.
I mean, the Liberals have gone so far left. Jagmeet has betrayed you. And I guess what I'm getting at, Natasha, is that for a Conservative breakthrough, you really want a pretty strong NDP. You want the left vote split. I don't see that happening unless there's some come to Jesus moment for Mr. Singh, or there's a party revolt a la Patrick Brown when he was the PC Ontario leader, and they oust him. And right now, the NDP is a two-headed dragon. You have the urban socialist set, Jagmeet Singh being the perfect example. And then you have the classic NDPers.
Yes.
They're all about, the hard hat brigade, and the lunch
labor.
bucket brigade,
Yeah.
building pipelines, etc. And they are completely at odds with each other. I kind of hope the NDP gets its act together, gets a new leader, and actually helps the Conservatives get in by splitting that left-wing vote. Do you think that'll happen?
Yeah, I wonder what will happen to those people who you're just speaking about, because they are politically isolated right now. If they're not being represented by their leader, they're bound to vote elsewhere, and I wonder where they'll go, because as you said, it's unlikely that it'll be Justin Trudeau who will garner those votes.
Yeah, well, his popularity is plummeting even amongst Liberal supporters, and when I say that, classical Liberal supporters, the type that liked Chrétien, Paul Martin, and I mean, it seems like an eternity away. Those were governments that actually balanced the budget, had fiscal surpluses, and that's an afterthought with this tax and spend prime minister. But time will tell. I hate to be cliche, but we'll see what happens. And as you mentioned, Freeland on the green transition. Golly, what's that about?
Let's play this clip in a couple seconds.
I'm already holding on to my wallet.
Yeah.
Whenever I hear green, that means my green is coming out of my billfold. Here we go, folks.
For a minute. I think that, if I can be a little bit emotional for a minute, I think that Canadians maybe don't fully appreciate that the green transition is also a huge economic opportunity. Quite rightly, we are accustomed to thinking about climate action as an existential challenge for the planet. And it is. It absolutely is. And we have a moral imperative to act for the next generation. But speaking as Canada's finance minister, it's also a real economic opportunity. And this is a space where Canada can win.
Yeah, and again, do as I say, not as I do. Natasha, I believe our colleague Sheila Gunn-Reid did a access to information search, and I hope I got my numbers right. I know I have one number definitely right, but I think it was 47 vehicles are part of the Liberal cabinet.
Right.
And of those vehicles, folks, guess how many are green? One. It was either a Chevy Volt or a Chevy Bolt, but only one is a green-plated car. Natasha, if she believes that the green economy, what did she say, is some kind of a transition that is positive, then why aren't all those vehicles green-plated?
Yeah, I agree. And what I really want to know is, are people really buying this crap? Like, do people actually trust when the Liberal government speaks about their passion for climate activism? Like, I'm confused. Like, who's buying this crap?
Well, it's so hypocritical because we'll shut down the pipelines, we'll shut down oil going from Alberta to a refinery in New Brunswick owned by the Irvings, which could produce, as I understand it, more than 1 billion refined barrels of oil per day. And yet, that's what we're doing to reduce our carbon emissions. Oh, please don't look at that tanker coming in from Saudi Arabia. And I understand that oil is not subjected to the carbon tax because a lot of it goes to Quebec, which is a Liberal stronghold, or can be. It is despicably hypocritical.
Yeah. No, 1,000%. And I would be surprised if anyone were actually genuinely believing this. And I hopefully that this gets called out more. I really think that needs to happen, because we've seen such a weird shift going from COVID to this whole green sort of narrative. And I'm really hoping people don't latch on to this one like they did to the COVID narrative.
And the thing is, I mean, why would obviously the Liberals don't care about the public purse, the way they spend. Here's the thing, Natasha. Why wouldn't they, just for optics, for those 47 or so vehicles, that the cabinet ministers are in, why wouldn't they just go completely green-plated?
Yeah.
You can get a minivan, the Chrysler Pacifica. You can get that as a plug-in hybrid, green plate. You can get SUVs that have green plates. Believe it or not, folks, I drive one.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, yeah, me, the cruel conservative waging war on the environment. I'm driving a green-plated vehicle. By the way, it's only because I can use the HOV lane as a solo driver because I'm pretty antisocial.
Do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
Do what you gotta do.
But why wouldn't you do? Why couldn't she say, "Look at our fleet. We are setting an example." Instead, they are humongous, gas-guzzling V8 SUVs along the lines, like I said, of the Chevy Suburban, the Ford Expedition. Again, I ask you for optics reasons, because money doesn't mean
no
anything
option.
to these people.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they do that?
Yeah, well, it's the same thing when there was the climate summit back in the fall. Trudeau was just flying private while talking about, they were all preaching about net zero, whatever that means. And it's like you're literally taking photos of yourself boarding a private plane like alone, basically.
Yeah.
Like what? And I remember reading on Twitter that people were defending this. They're like, well, it's all right. He's going to the climate summit. It's
Yeah.
like, where's the cognitive dissonance? Like it's insane.
Oh, I agree. And I believe since the Paris Accords, I hope I got my figures right, I think 18 times we have tried various schemes such as carbon taxes and whatnot to meet our obligations under the Paris Climate Accords, and 18 times we have failed. But this time, kind of like Lucy Van Pelt holding the football, this time, Charlie, it'll be different, you know, with that 8.8 cents a liter that got tacked on to the cost of a liter of gas at your local gas station on April the 1st, fittingly April Fool's Day. Again, it's a scam, it's virtue signaling, it's hypocrisy. And I think this also plays into the conservative camp, because at the end of the day, I think what Canadians really care about is the cost of living.
Yes.
It is getting so hard for fuel costs.
Yep.
When you go to the grocery store, I don't know about you, Natasha, everything is more expensive.
It is.
And have you noticed the portions are a little bit smaller?
Yeah. No,
I'm noticing that. I don't know if the
definitely.
manufacturers think we don't notice that. I
Yeah.
notice it.
Well, it's like even like a bag of chips. It's like slowly over the years, like there are less and less chips in the bag, and you're like, I feel gypped. The price has gone up, but there's less chips in the bag. And I think we do have another clip about the housing issue from Freeland as well, if we want to
good.
play that, because yeah, as you mentioned, it's been crazy, the cost of housing and,
Yes.
and living. It's crazy. Let's hear what the
Because
libs have to say,
The core problem
though.
with housing in Canada is we just don't have enough housing. It's just a mathematical thing. Canada has the fastest growing population in the G7. That is fantastic. That is actually a huge driver of economic growth, and it is one of Canada's competitive advantages. But we cannot have the fastest growing population in the G7 without also having the fastest growing housing stock in the G7. And we don't have that right now. We have a shortage of homes.
Well, she is right about that. Especially in the GTA, Natasha, what's driving the market, and it's insane, is you have low supply.
Right.
You have huge demand. Even with interest rates rising, you still have generational low interest rates. Those three things create the perfect storm. I think what she was getting at was that stupid tax on foreign buyers.
Right.
And I say it's stupid because, yes, foreign buyers are driving up the cost. They're part of that extra demand. The problem is, Natasha, by adding in whatever levy they've put in, that's just the cost of buying a house in Toronto. They're going to absorb it. They're not going to go, oh, what, a 5% levy? Oh, I guess I won't be leaving Hong Kong after all. No. They will pay that, and nothing is going to be done in terms of making housing more affordable to Canadians.
Absolutely not. And of course, the COVID-19 pandemic really exacerbated this, because people were, especially in city centers like Toronto, everyone lived in a condo before, and then, you know, you're with your spouse or your partner and you're both working from home in 500 square feet. Like, something's got to give. You know,
Yes.
you need to buy a house, and I think that's also part of it. And yeah, just the response to this, like, what are we going to do moving forward to make it, like, to allow people to be able to buy homes? Like, she didn't really offer any solutions, so I'm not really.
You know, the COVID factor is a major one, Natasha, because if you go to, like, the downtown core in Toronto, all those huge office towers you see, folks, I understand
Empty.
that less than 50% are occupied, that since COVID, became a thing 2 years ago, you had so many, especially executives, go into cottage country.
Yeah.
My God, if we only invested in cottages
I know.
2 years ago, what we would have received. And, and that is a compounding factor of the economic misery, because you go to the underground in Toronto, it's the path system. It's like a little small town of, fashion stores, food courts, what have you.
Coffee, yeah.
They're getting hammered.
Yeah.
Because when you had a tower that was completely full and now it's just a half or a third full, your buildings go down. And, my heart bleeds for these people. But of course, Natasha, we're all in this together.
Oh, of course we are. I mean, just to add on to that, like I used to work around there and I would walk through the path every morning and it was like shoulder to shoulder. Like it was so busy.
I remember those days.
Yeah. And like you would be like sweating, trying to like break through the crowds and stuff. Like it's insane. And it's like a ghost town now. It's sad.
Yeah. I avoided the path because I always got lost.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, you got to memorize your routes, folks. Memorize your routes.
I'm not some hedgehog, tunneling underground. I like to be above ground, even when it's really cold. But for those who don't like the cold and those who can navigate underground, God bless you. But you don't have those crowds that you spoke about anymore.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Should we maybe talk a bit about the Conservative Party leaders who are, up for battle right now, who are hopefully going to switch things around for Canada?
Oh, yes. Well, you were talking just now about your perspiration in the path system.
Yeah.
We're going from perspiration to desperation,
Yes.
folks. Case in point, the prime example, Jean Charest on the attack of Pierre Poilievre for being a trucker supporter. I almost feel sorry for Charest. This isn't going to earn him any points. The last I looked, I don't think Poilievre even responded to these criticisms, which, by the way, Natasha, I think is the right strategy.
Yeah.
Don't give this guy time. It's not even worthy commenting on. But my God, this Charest, who was a red Tory when he was part of the
Quebec Liberals.
And then, a Liberal premier for 8 years who thinks he is, I guess, entitled. He should be crowned. Do we have video of him making his attack on
I think
Mr.
we do,
Poilievre?
yeah. I think he's denouncing Pierre over his support for the trucker crowds.
Okay,
Yes.
check this out, folks.
Excuse me. I mean, were you mistaken? I mean, he actually didn't support the blockade. What you saw, what he did was
He was out there. He was out there with the truckers.
You sound like you drank the Kool-Aid here.
No, he was out there with the truckers. I'm giving you his view.
Evan, everyone knows that Pierre Poilievre supported the blockade. And I don't care how much spin you put into it. Here is someone who makes laws and says, I can break laws because I'm above the law. Well, I'm sorry. If you want to be a leader of a party, if you want to sit in the House of Commons and make laws, you have to obey them. The laws of the land are not a buffet table from which you choose what you want or do not want to support. And if you say to Canadians, I want to be the leader of the Conservative Party and I want to be the chief legislator of the country, but I don't have to obey the laws, I'm sorry. That's not just a failure in leadership, it disqualifies you, as far as I'm concerned, as being someone who thinks or aspires to be a leader.
Supports free.
Oh my goodness! Natasha, that is Jean Charest's Rambo moment. I talk about the ending of the original Rambo movie where Colonel Troutman says to John Rambo, "It's over. It's over, John." He's over with, because I think the conservative grassroots base supported the freedom convoys.
Yeah.
If you buy groceries, if you get drugs at the pharmacy, that got there because of these truckers, the way they were demonized and vilified by those on left of center. And here we have Jean Chrétien, who wants to be the head of the Conservative Party. I think it's over for him, given that.
Well, not to mention, we saw in the polls, like the narrative shift from being anti-COVID to pro-COVID during the time of the truckers' convoy. So what news is he reading? That was like public knowledge that the narrative had started to shift and the narrative had begun to crumble. So I'm really confused as to why he would take a stance that's actually unpopular for most Canadians.
100%. And, fool me once, shame on you. Yeah. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah.
What is he saying for fool me 3 times because we went through this, liberal light nonsense with Mr. Scheer and Mr. O'Toole. And now Jean Charest thinks there's an appetite for a three-peat that will somehow turn out differently. I mean, here's what they don't understand, I think, Natasha. As you reach out to the mainstream media, as you move your policies more left of center, as you become more liberal light, if I'm a liberal, I'm going, why am I drinking Diet Coke or New Coke when I can have Coke Classic? I don't want a red Tory party. I want a red Liberal party, and they always learn the hard way on election night.
No, absolutely. And like we've talked about a couple weeks ago, I think just how desperate I think real conservatives are for a conservative leader, like a true blue Tory. So I don't understand, like he must be grasping at straws if he has to throw stones at Pierre Poilievre. It's very clear that maybe he's a bit desperate in this situation, but I just think it's not a good long-term tactic given what people really want from their conservative leader.
And here's the thing too, the other high-profile candidate is, of course, sneaky Patrick Brown.
Oh, yeah, you love him.
Oh, well, folks, this guy, this is the biggest liar in Canadian politics. He would spit in your face and tell you it's raining, okay? And aside from that Sunday morning announcement last month that he was in the race, he's done nothing. He's had no public. I don't know.
I've heard nothing.
Yeah, and that kind of worries me in a sense. What is he doing behind the scenes?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but he's got that non-aggression treaty with Mr. Charest, so you know where Patrick Brown's coming from. He is a fake conservative. That's the real reason why he was booted from the PC party back in January 2018. He threw the social conservatives under the bus. He threw the fiscal conservatives under the bus by promoting an Ontario carbon tax. And guess what? There were no more conservatives to throw under the bus. They knew that what seemed like a sure thing majority might be a minority or even a loss. And when the sexual allegation CTV story came around, that was a convenient way to oust him. So there he is in Brampton, simply announcing that he's running. I think after that announcement, because he took no questions, he was too busy. He had to go and inspect arenas and Zambonis.
Busy guy.
Natasha.
Busy
and
guy.
I always wear an Armani suit when I'm checking the oil levels in the Zamboni.
Me too. Do you think that Brown and Charest are like garnering any sort of support from the public? Like, what do you think's happening there? Like, who's voting for these people?
Well, I'll give credit where credit is due. The one thing Patrick Brown does well, and it's because he will say anything to anyone, is to sell memberships. I think when he was with the Ontario PCs, he sold something like 70,000 memberships, which is huge. But again, he'll, depending on, it's kind of like, Bob Hope used to say, when you're in Chicago, you give him the Windy City stuff. When you're in New York, you give him the Big Apple stuff.
Right.
He will say anything
He's playing
to
the game.
anyone.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so whichever constituency he's speaking to, he'll promise them the moon. And it's too bad so many people fall for it.
Yeah.
So you got Charest Liberal, Brown a Liberal, and then who used to be my MP until last fall, Leona Alislav. And as you may know, Natasha, back in, I think it was 2018, she was a Liberal MP that crossed the floor to the Conservatives because, get a load of this, it wasn't a come-to-Jesus moment for her that, I'm on the wrong side of history here. It was because she did internal polling in the Oak Ridges, Aurora, Richmond Hill riding, in which I live, which indicated it's always been a flip riding, that it was going to flip Conservative. Her polling was correct by a mere several hundred votes. It did flip. So she remained the MP, but, well, she outsmarted herself because last fall in a real horse race, she lost her seat.
Oh, no.
But what I'm getting at is, and by the way, let's never forget that Andrew Scheer made Leona Alislav, for some reason, the deputy leader. A Liberal Benedict Arnold.
Right.
So we have 3 names in this leadership race that are clearly Liberal. And I think this is going to further energize the Poilievre campaign.
Absolutely, definitely. I think, as we've mentioned already, that there is a deep yearning for a real conservative leader. And I don't get this tactic that they're employing, just seems really unintelligent.
You know, your deep yearning, it's like the, what's her name? That I'm drawing a mental flip. Katie Lang.
Okay.
Constant craving. We just want a conservative, right? That's what we're craving for.
I think so. And I think that we have another clip, too, where Jean
Okay.
Charest, his campaign chair, calls Pierre Poilievre far right. And he claims that the large crowds do not indicate that he's popular with Canadians at large. I feel like that's untrue, but let's play the clip.
Beautiful.
Argue with that. I mean, you get crowds. Yes, you've got thousands of people. So did Maxime Bernier in the last election, and he got 5% of the vote. So, quite frankly, I think if you want an opening, look at what's happened with the NDP Liberal coalition. It's given us an excellent opening on the center-right to pull in voters who feel now they have no home even with the Liberal Party and no home in a Conservative Party, though, that would veer as far right as you would take it. So why don't we go to a place with a leader who can attract enough people to actually get us into office and make the good things happen we need to for this country? Argue with that.
Far right. What does that even mean?
I don't know
Natasha?
what that means. I think that just means you're a conservative at this point.
Yeah.
You're like classically liberal.
Yeah, I love freedom. Ooh, far right.
Yeah. Freedom of speech.
And I'm not kidding. I mean, when you see the Antifa types come to Parliament Hill, they're anti-freedom, and yet they're anti-fascist,
Fascist.
but fascists are against. So they're really not Antifa. They're just fa.
Yeah.
Right? Fascists, right? But I agree that Pierre is playing his cards right. Economic misery, unfortunately, I think we're due for in this country in the months and years ahead. And like I said earlier, I think the third component of this perfect storm is if there is a palace coup to get rid of Jagmeet Singh. And believe me, there is a lot of discontent about this man in the NDP. Trust me on that, folks. I don't know if it'll happen, but if we have a strong NDP, more disenchantment with the Liberals given the economy, and Pierre Poilievre actually giving a viable alternative. And here's the crucial thing, Natasha, if he comes as advertised, because we know with O'Toole, you know, he was anti-carbon tax, anti-gun ban, and then during the campaign he flip-flopped. Which is why Aaron O'Toole is sitting on his keister somewhere in Durham region right now.
Yeah, that's my biggest concern as well. I don't think we should be all gung-ho for the Conservative Party. I feel like I knock it up to an abusive relationship, given our experience with O'Toole and Andrew Scheer, where they just flip-flopped. And I think we do need to be discerning about these people, because anyone can say anything, but it doesn't mean they're going to actually follow through. And we've seen that time and time again the past couple of years. So I'm a skeptic. I'm not convinced at this point, personally.
You know what? You're probably the smartest one in this room, even though there's only two people in this room, because my gut feeling tells me that Poilievre is genuine. Now, maybe in 3 years, I'll be the biggest horse's ass.
Should we make a bet? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, okay. Well,
Just kidding.
well, you know what? I got a bet with Lincoln J. The Leafs are out in the first round in the Stanley Cup playoffs, $30. By the way, Lincoln, if you're watching, pay me $25 now for early withdrawal, and I'll give you a $5 discount.
Oh my goodness, so generous.
Or you can wait until May and pay me the full 30. But yeah, let's hope, unlike Scheer, unlike O'Toole, Poilievre comes as advertised. And here he is again. Look, the venue is packed.
Yeah.
Which, where is he right now?
Vancouver.
Oh, that is Vancouver.
All right.
Okay, then. And I'm sure if we let the tape run far enough, it'd be oh, there you go. I knew there'd be an ovation. Not everyone is standing. He didn't use his defund the CBC card.
Yeah, it works
And
every time.
I am sure right now, by the way, since he's played his cards that way, the same as Mr. Bernier with the People's Party of Canada, what do you want to bet that the CBC weasels right now are looking under every rock and into every crevice for any
for sure.
possible Poilievre scandal?
They must be desperate for something, absolutely. And just on Maxime Bernier, what do you think is going to happen with his supporters? Do you think that they'll completely switch, or do you think that he has kind of held the line enough and garnered enough support?
You know what? That is an excellent question, because, you know, much like the Liberals are dining out on NDP policies right now. Poilievre, many of his policies are right from the PPC playbook. I remember a couple of years, not this election, but the election before, when Mr. Bernier was campaigning in the Toronto area, again, a standing room only crowd. And again, when he said defund the CBC, I thought the hotel was going to get in. It was so raucous. So the answer is, I don't know, because as much as I admire Mr. Bernier and so many of his candidates,
I mean, he has kept his word.
He has.
He's shown us exactly who he is, and he's remained consistent, which I don't think Pierre Poilievre has been, frankly.
Well, you know, there are some inconsistencies, but here's the thing. Sometimes I guess to get political traction, oh my goodness, look at that crowd.
I know.
From Mr. Bernier. You've got to, you know, I guess vote strategically.
Yeah, I understand.
And by that, as much as I admire Mr. Bernier and the People's Party of Canada, it is a Herculean task for a startup political party to win and to become government. Forget about government, win a seat. I mean, even with Maxime in his Beauce, Quebec riding, which between him and his father, I think they held that riding for 35 years as Conservatives. And in 2 elections, Maxime couldn't win his own riding as leader. I thought that was a little shocking. I thought he had enough popularity that he would do so. So the thing is, do you want to put your vote to a party that is admirable, it's completely on side with your thinking, or do you want to put your vote for someone who is a potential true contender? I think it'll come down to that on election day.
Yeah, definitely. I think at the end of the day, my hope for the People's Party is that they are able to win a few more seats, that there is more of a representation for populists in, you know, Parliament. I think that would be really nice, I think, so that people feel represented, because I think a lot of people are offended by the Conservative Party.
Yeah, you know, you're right. And I would say even to win 1 seat, even if Maxine, and Maxine has the best chance, right? He could be the conscience in the House of Commons. But if he's excluded from the parliamentary debates, he's got no voice in there. I would surely love to see him get Beauce back. Maybe it'll happen this time. Because you're right, we do need that, you know,
fringe.
You know, well, I wouldn't use the word fringe. I think Mr. Bernier is genuine.
Yeah.
I would call it a conscience.
Yeah, I agree.
You know?
I agree. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens for sure. Also, we should probably do a store ad.
Oh, yes.
We should talk about the store, you guys.
Okay.
Have you all been to rebelnewsstore.com? David Menzies does every day. He's always browsing.
Yeah, I'm always checking to see if those Menzoid T-shirts are flying off the racks.
They aren't, but you can make that happen by buying one today, y'all.
You could.
I have a discount code NAT10, which you could use at checkout. Do you have a discount code as well?
Yeah, Sheila usually says it because
probably David 10, but if
or
not,
Menzoid 10
or maybe
something
Menzoid
like that.
10. Yeah.
You know what? To tell you the truth, I don't care who gets the credit as long as people buy the merchandise.
Yeah.
And look at this merchandise.
Yeah,
Isn't this just lovely?
Some of it's just so fun, and there was some fun truckers merch during the convoy. Misunderstood actually has some merchandise launching hopefully this week.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so be sure to buy something,
You know
Menzies.
what? I'll check that out.
Yeah, I have the I Will Not Comply shirt. That one's really fun.
I love the ape to sheep.
Yeah, that one's I think that one's a bestseller for sure.
You know what? I'm going to get that. And speaking of which, do you know, Natasha, and this is what this shirt, I think, speaks to. I was at Hillcrest Mall for several hours on Sunday. That's a big mall in Richmond Hill. I wasn't shopping, folks. I was just getting some tinkering done to my cell phone. And I would say the split was easily 85% attendees masked,
Right.
15% unmasked. I literally could not believe my eyes. And of course, the masked people only partly masked in a sense, folks, because when they go to the food court,
They take the
those
masks
masks come down, because we know when you're seated and eating, the coronavirus is very respectful of hungry Canadians.
Oh, it knows.
It won't infect you, right? To me, this is pure outright indoctrination. Our chief medical health officer, Kieran Moore, who is currently being raked over the coals for going to the Dominican for a vacation. Well, why wouldn't he? He's declared, you know, the
pandemic is...
Yeah, the vax passport over the masking.
By the way, he also didn't hide the fact that he was going anywhere. He wasn't.
No.
He didn't lie like we've seen from politicians in the past. So I don't get why people are so offended. Like if he wants to go, go. You know.
Here's the thing: these people said constantly in the last 2 years, follow the science.
Yeah.
Follow the science. Listen to the public health services authorities. And then when those authorities say, the science say we don't need the mask, we don't need the vax passports, they go, you know what, I'm keeping the vax passport. Certain businesses like concert venues are.
Yeah.
And certain businesses are also keeping the mask mandates. And based on my observation on Sunday, 85% of Hillcrest Mall shoppers were still wearing masks. Baffling.
Ape to sheep.
Yep.
Ape to sheep. No,
I
absolutely.
wish I was wearing that shirt that day.
Yeah, I'll order you one later.
But I'll tell you one thing. Here's the good news, folks. This is what I loved about me spending a few hours in Hillcrest Mall on Sunday was the fact that the COVID Karens are still out there.
Yeah.
They're, of course, wearing the mask. But what's changed in the last month since the mandates went down? It's this. They just glare at you, right? They don't do that banshee, get a mask on. They must be so frustrated because they know they don't have the law on their side, as if they ever did, really. And so you just get those stink-eye looks. But I love it. I chuckle at it because they really want to yell at you.
But also, David, do you think if they were really that fearful that they would just stay home? Like, why are they out and about when there's a deadly virus among us?
Well,
I find that a little funny. Like, are you really that scared?
Again, you raise an excellent point because I would love to know, and I don't know if there's any way of knowing this. I guess you could commission a poll. But what percentage of Ontarians, what percentage of Canadians are basically, entombed in their home, their condo, their basement? They're ordering everything online from Amazon.
Gloves through the door when they grab their food,
Exactly, Uber Eats. And I bet you there is a percentage living their lives like that.
I actually have a story about that.
Oh, story time.
Our MPP in my area is Peter Tabbins. I'm not sure if you know who he is, NDP. He never replies to my emails, so don't email him if you have a problem. But he was out campaigning, I guess, and he was door knocking wearing his big N95. And he knocked on a woman's door, and she was wearing a mask, and she kept the door closed, and he had to hand her a pamphlet. He's like, I see you're very well protected, And he through the crack of the door hands her the flyer, and she's like closing the door in his face.
That?
I witnessed it, and we were my husband and I were like, whoa.
Did you film it?
No, I didn't. I didn't, but you got to trust me. I saw it.
I trust you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you this right now, Natasha, and any candidates in the provincial election door knocking at my house, if you're wearing a mask, if you've got the face diaper
door
on,
in the face.
you've already no, I'm not going to slam it. I'm going to tell them, you've already lost my vote by wearing that ridiculous face diaper outdoors. So please mosey on.
Absolutely.
I'll film it, of course.
Yeah, I should have been better prepared. I think I was just so stunned. But maybe we should talk about Jason Kenney, who also got roasted for his harsh mandates.
Yeah, and then I think because it's almost 10:02, we should get to some chats.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
Okay, so what's your deal with Premier Kenney?
Yeah, so he was roasted for calling Alberta's harsh mandates the balanced approach to COVID. So
tell that to Pastor Art.
I was just going to say, I'm pretty sure more pastors were jailed in Alberta than in China in the last year. And we have a billboard, actually. You can go to rebelbillboard.com to check out Sheila's latest video about our newest billboard, and you can donate to give us a couple bucks to fund it because we have it on annually each month. So crazy.
To think that Mr. Kenney, when he was part of the Harper Conservatives, introduced a bill about guaranteeing religious freedom worldwide. I guess he was exempting Alberta in that equation.
Yeah, or Christians, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. It's always Christian for some reason. Maybe it's the Christians are bad actors, but I doubt that's the case.
Yeah.
This has cost him real damage.
Yeah.
And the problem, Natasha, is as bad as Premier Kenney has been, what's behind door number 1 and 2 in Alberta?
I know.
I mean, the Rachel Notley NDP, the destroyers coming back in. The Liberals, well, they don't have a chance. But the thing is, this is why Kenny is playing with fire, I think. You go after these people, you you turn the grassroots disgusted with your authoritarian behavior. You might pave the perfect storm conditions to get the Rachel Notley NDP back in power.
And it makes it seem like it's this crazy conspiracy theory plan all along. And is that the goal? I don't understand.
I don't know what he's thinking.
I don't either. And the fact that he thinks that he actually believes in his heart that he had a balanced approach to the pandemic is like, that's delusional. That's delusional.
Yeah, unbelievable.
It is.
And anyways, we'll see what happens next year. Is it next year for the Alberta election?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so. Yeah.
All
And
right.
is this a video here of Pastor Art being dragged out of his own home?
Yeah, I know. It looks like something from a police state, like in North Korea or something like that. There's the Calgary police.
Nice.
One of the, I won't paint them all with the same brush, but what they've been doing, I think, is trying to steal the mantle from either the RCMP or the Montreal Police Service as the worst police force in Canada. And I say that not in a cavalier fashion, folks. When you see, at least Pastor Art is not on a highway right now, but when you see them arrest Pastor Art on a live highway when it's raining and there's traffic whizzing by at highway speed, that was completely uncalled for. They know where he lives, right? They want to make a spectacle out of this. Shame on you, Calgary Police Service.
Absolutely. On that positive note, should we read some chats?
Okay, then.
All right. Well, thank you for sending in your chats, folks. Hopefully we can get to as many as possible. We really do appreciate your donations, though. Good morning, sweet Menzie. Hello, Natasha. I don't care what anyone says. You're still a hottie in a belly shirt. This is from Annalisa, 1964.
Is Annalisa talking about you or I?
Probably you.
Oh, it was the Raptor cheerleader.
I think it's you. He looks great in a crop top, folks. So.
By the way, folks, when I tried to, what that video was in reference to was something from 5 years ago. I went down to the Toronto Raptors cheerleader tryouts.
Oh.
The reason why I had that belly shirt on, that was one of the mandates. You had to show your midriff, and unfortunately, it was a long winter that year. Anyway, it was kind of a goof. It was a parody about the insane radical transgender agenda. And the point I made at the end of the video was that the Raptors, by not hiring me, made a crucial mistake in breaking the gender barrier, much like in the 1940s, Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball, becoming the first black baseball player allowed into Major League Baseball. The reason it's relevant, we played it recently, is that there was a professor of women and gender studies at Purdue that was lauding Leah Thomas, the male swimmer who's wiping the pool with his biological female competitors. And she actually used that comparison too. This is the same as breaking the color barrier back in the 40s. Let me tell you something, Natasha. You weren't around in 2017 at the company, but I can tell you our haters, look at the transphobia here. It's gone from transphobia in terms of what I said and did in 2017 to there you go.
Oh, my goodness.
This is the Jackie Robinson of trans sports. Can you imagine, folks? This is why, and I've said this many times, in 2019, Mad Magazine, which used to be a license to print money, went out of business. You cannot parody the modern world anymore.
Oh, gosh. Well, thankfully, Kat and I talk about this a lot in our show Misunderstood. And on today's episode, which comes out tonight at 7 p.m., we're actually addressing a little more Leah Thomas chat. So y'all be sure to listen to that. It's juicy.
And maybe we should prove to the folks out there that males in sports, because with the exception of auto racing and equestrian, 'twas ever thus you had two separate divisions. Men have more muscle mass, greater cardiovascular capacity. That's why there's two separate divisions. And maybe we should demonstrate that on your show one day. We'll set up a ring, and it'll be a handicap match. I'll take on you and Kat.
Okay.
Just me, just little old me. Let's see what happens.
Little old you. All right, stay tuned for that on next week's live stream. Do we have any more chats? This is from Harper Will Always Be My my prime minister.
Yes.
Okay. I'm surprised so many taxpayers do not mind their taxes covering JT new CCP funding, his media to praise him. Wonder if Pierre will finally cut media unlimited access to tax bank for life. I mean, he's promising to cut funding, so we'll see. Hopefully he follows through on that. I think if he does not, that his voter base will just be completely peeved.
You know what, Natasha, that's a great point the viewer raises. And if I do get a chance to scrum Mr. Poilievre, I will ask him that. You're on record as defunding the CBC. Fantastic. What about the newspaper and magazine fund, which is in the hundreds of millions? Do you also pledge to take that away as well?
It's a great question, yeah. Let's see what else we've got. From the same person, thank you. I'm amazed Social Lib Ford still manages 40% approval. I predict if he scrapes government again by September, his experts will lock everything except Costco and Walmart, mask up everywhere for all for science. Yeah, I think that's a fair prediction. A lot of people are predicting that. Do you think that the premier will win, Doug Ford, again?
I think he will. I think it could be it will definitely be a reduced majority, maybe even a minority. I think he will win.
Because who else is there to vote for?
Well, this is the thing. Again, much like Alberta, behind door number 2 and door number 3, Andrea Horwath with the NDP, Steve Del Duca with the Liberals. Can anyone say they would have been better? But here's the thing. This is why, unless there's major announcements to the contrary, that I can't bring myself to vote PC. It's because we shouldn't have that kind of loser attitude. Well, the other two are just as bad. Because we should expect better. We should expect more from Conservatives.
Yeah.
Doug Ford is not Rob Ford. That is clear. Rob Ford would not have desecrated the economy like Doug has done. And I got to tell you, I was an early adopter of smelling a rat with this party because in 2018, I did not vote PC. I squandered my vote. I voted Libertarian in my writing.
Oh, interesting.
Because Tanya Granick-Allen, the kingmaker for Doug Ford, who put her support at the convention to Doug Ford, the only reason why we have Premier Ford as opposed to Premier Elliott is Tanya Granick-Allen. And guess what? Cancel culture. Here's some potentially offensive Facebook rants. You're under the bus. I was disgusted, so I never voted for this party to begin with.
Oh, well, there you go. It's not his fault, folks. It's not his fault.
And I'm so glad I
did. Let's see another chat. From the same person, Harper will always be my prime minister. Dave, what store can you buy your leather trench coat? JT will probably say it will fix house bubble rent your house from me or my wee developer buddy and be happy.
You know what, sir, that trench coat was bought at the Canadian National Exhibition, aka the X, about 20 years ago.
Oh.
And
retro.
Yeah, and shame on John Tory for canceling the X the last 2 years. The only time the X is almost as old as Canada itself.
Really?
And the only time it had to be canceled was during First World War and Second World War. And of course, John Tory quivering over COVID. So, but here's the good news. It's coming back this August.
Oh.
Go to those merchants. I'm sure they took a horrific hit the last 2 years not being able to exhibit their wares. And so if you are in the Greater Toronto area, that's where I got it. And you know what I got to tell you? Your co-host, Kat, who was looking so super fashionable in a retro raincoat, told me that these black leather coats are coming back. I had no idea.
They are.
Wow.
I think you started the trend, actually. I'm going to buy one. Yeah. Next week we'll be matching. Do we have any more chats?
Yes, we do.
Oh, great. This is from the same person. Thank you so much. I said Dave Princess Singh got in. He's there for the same reason as Justin. Get as much money as I can and then retire on taxpayers.
100%. You know what? Maybe this is all about Mr. Singh ensuring he gets that 6 years of, tenure, and then you get the pension automatically. And I think he's probably at 5-something right now.
Yeah, I believe so.
So maybe that's what was behind this cockamamie thing. I wouldn't put it past him. What a grifter.
Yeah. Do we have any more chats? AMT60, thank you. When did the mainstream media start getting funding? What year did they last actually do investigative reporting. I'm in my 60s, and I thought I remembered they actually asked hard questions of leaders, but don't know when.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's quite different. I think the year they started to get the funding might have been 2019. I think.
Quite recent.
Oh yeah, this bailout, and
wow.
But remember there was that GM ad slogan for Oldsmobile, not your father's Oldsmobile, even though it still was really. But anyways, this is not your father's media, whether it's in Canada or the U.S. I remember in the 80s. 80 to 88, the Ronald Reagan administration, the tough time he received from the media, I thought they were often unfair, but that was nothing, absolutely nothing compared to what Donald Trump went through. This was an organized party, basically. Our boss Ezra, he says it the best, the media party. Actually openly campaigning against the Trump Republicans and boosting the Democrats. It is absolutely shameful. I wonder what my journalism professors at University X, when I went there in the early 80s, what they would have said of what's become of journalism. Because I'll tell you that in the early 80s, that's not how we were taught.
Yeah.
But right now you have the media being basically the proletarian guard for those politicians in North America who are left of center.
Yeah. This is from Harper Will Always Be My Prime Minister. I wonder how many V8 SUVs were idling waiting for Princess to give her green speech before jetting on fuel-powered jet. Oh, at least 4 or 5, I predict. What do you think?
It's usually I do the count, and typically the entourage is 7. They're almost always Chevy Suburbans, Ford Expeditions, and there's always 1 or 2 minivans in there. I don't know why, right? But still, not the green-plated minivans. And you are right. In the winter, they run them constantly to keep it nice and toasty for little
sounds
Justin.
Comfortable.
Oh yeah, in the summer, well, you don't want Justin to sweat.
No.
Like Natasha going through the PATH system in Toronto. He's too good for sweating, so the AC is run constantly. Again, I'd have no problem with this, except for the fact that these are goddamn hypocrites who tell us to suffer, turn off the heat, turn off the AC. Sometimes we don't have a choice given the cost of our utilities, but it's a different set of standards for them.
1,000%. Not to mention, we're paying for it.
Yeah.
From the same person, thank you. By now, I was 100% accepting Justin to be building castle overlooking Ottawa and ordering a Rolls-Royce limo to drive him around. Wonder what Justin gets on a side from dirty oil.
Well, that's a great commentary, too, because as I understand it, the Trudeau family's source of wealth is they operated in Quebec gas stations.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
goodness.
What, I'm going to double check that. I don't want to be conveying fake news, but that's come up a few times.
Interesting.
The Rolls Royce is one thing, but I'll tell you, when Pierre Trudeau passed away, guess who got his classic Gullwing Mercedes from the 50s? Yeah, Justin. And I think at auction, that car approaches almost $1 million in the condition it is. The rich get richer, eh? And
Must be
again,
nice.
Marxism ain't for the Marxists.
No. In JT budget, I'm expecting he will add, we are sending $3 billion to Ukraine, but you cannot know how the money will be split or spent. Yeah, I think that makes sense. They've sent foreign money before and they pretended it was for something and then it ended up being for something else. What was that though? It was something very specific, like something about women's reproductive health maybe. I'm not too sure. I don't want to spread fake news either, but I know there was a story where money was being sent and it wasn't necessarily as clear as we would have expected from our government.
It's hard to keep track of all the scandals.
It kind of is, yeah, and I don't want to spread any lies or anything, but I do recall hearing something about that before. I'm sure you've heard similar stories.
Oh, yeah. Maybe it was something connected with the We charity.
Oh, no.
That's kind of gone off the radar, but believe me, that there's still more stories to come there.
No kidding. To Christine's speech, I thought, thanks to Justin, Canada was on the bottom of the G7 list.
On the bottom. Did we, in terms of, maybe the viewer can clarify that, in terms of I don't know, GDP?
Maybe,
or,
yeah, I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Democrat Jean Charest says someone who makes laws and breaks them. I guess he's referring to his best friend, Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, for sure.
Are they best friends? That'd be interesting.
Yeah, well, you know.
I'd watch that sitcom.
Ethics code violations, SNC Lavalin, Jody Wilson-Raybould. I mean, the list goes on and on. Gropegate, blackface. Maybe those, groping is certainly sexual assault. Blackface is just the indication that he is a moron. And you know what? What is his obsession with blackface? And why is it? And I think this is even more offensive than the black makeup. He's inevitably always posing with his tongue out.
Yeah, that's weird.
Is that how Justin Trudeau looks upon black people? That
I don't know.
They stick their tongues out, all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be funny here,
No,
Natasha.
it's weird. It's weird. He makes me sick. He makes me sick. Ugh. I'm still expecting Liberal Scheer to put his name in the race. Oh gosh, I think those days are long gone. I think
No.
he learned his lesson.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think he will.
And of course, we were talking about how undoubtedly the mainstream media is looking to find any scandal attached
Yes.
to Pierre Poilievre. Remember the big Scheer scandal? He sold insurance without his full brokerage license. Ooh, throw away the key and lock up Mr.
I
Scheer
know.
forever.
Is that the best you got?
It's
Come on.
unbelievable.
At least pull out all the stops, right?
Oh my God. For 6 or 7 months.
Very specific and also very vague simultaneously. Nice.
All right.
Democrat Jean Charest is someone who makes laws and breaks them. I guess he's, I think we already read this one.
Yep.
Sorry. Yes. Do we have any more chats?
Maybe
Producer Efron. There we go.
Oh, we got one. Yeah.
AMT60, what do you think of Roman Baber, and is Rebel News going to interview him? He's been talking freedom for the past 2 years. Does he have a chance against Pierre? Pierre's name was on the World Economic Forum site.
Okay, well.
Lot to unpack there.
Well, I'll tell you this much, Natasha. I can tell you I agree with Roman Baber's principled stance that got him booted from caucus at the PC party. I agree with a lot of what he has to say, ideology.
You know, young people actually like him from what I can tell, too.
But then again, young people don't vote.
My friends do.
Hey, that's good to hear.
Millennials vote.
Here's the deal. As much as I like his ideology and his policies and taking a principled stance, I don't have a lot of respect for Mr. Baber, the man, in terms of being brave enough to being interviewed by the non-mainstream media. I say that because we've reached out to him for months to come on camera. In October, I was actually in Queen's Park in the legislative building. I literally bumped into Mr. Baber. And no word of a lie, folks. I said, Mr. Baber, I would love to sit down with you for an interview. And he says, well, David, come on. You know you have to go through the proper channels. I didn't know what he was talking about. I go, what do you mean? He goes, come on, you know how it is. You must go through the proper channels. I assume his assistant, his secretary. I said, well, you're the guy. I'm asking you directly. And he retreated into his office. He wouldn't take questions from Lincoln Jay.
Yeah, recently. This was last week.
Well, yeah, it was, I think, a Monday night. And forgive me, but, Roman Baber is around 40 years old, a Monday night, no children. He didn't have time. Oh, what better use of your time than to speak to a news channel with 1.5 million plus YouTube subscribers,
And
most of whom are red meat conservative.
Yeah, conservative base. It's exactly his target audience, you think.
And by the way, what I was told by Lincoln is that he got a hero's welcome, and when people saw him in the Rebel News mic flash, and see his supporters have no problem going on camera, but he runs away. Now, I heard rumor that the big boss man himself, Ezra, is going to have a sit-down interview with Roman. If that happens, I take back what I say about him being a coward. But until it happens, I'm sorry. This guy, as much as I'm simpatico with his ideology, he resembles the cowardly lion when it comes to us.
I think we have another chat coming here from Fraser McBurney. Fool me once, shame on you. Sheer, fool me twice, shame on me. The tool. That's fun. The Conservative Party is just another Liberal party. Don't be fooled again. I'm inclined to side with you personally. I agree. I'm like I said, I'm very skeptical that anything will change. I don't know. I just personally don't know if the leader's going to change the whole party.
Well, I'm clinging to hope, and we've seen some people that were part of Aaron O'Toole's inner circle, the soy boy contingent, I call them, leave. That's a good thing because that was the problem with, I think, Aaron O'Toole, is he was being, there were puppet masters.
Right.
And he lacked the intestinal fortitude to stand up to them. But people like Corey Hahn, he's resigned. So I cling to hope, Natasha. I hope I'm rewarded for that. Then again, maybe Pierre Poilievre is Lucy Van Pelt holding the football, and I'm Charlie Brown getting screwed again.
Only time will
see.
tell.
Yep.
Harper will always be my prime minister. It says Menzies is the hottest cheerleader. No comment because I will get fired. HR issues there. So,
well, you know what? I'll tell you. If I was running the Toronto Raptors, I'd go. You know what? Hire that guy. Hire that Frankenstein in a miniskirt because think of the publicity our team will get. I mean, people will buy tickets just to see this freak with all these. And by the way, I got to tell you, Natasha, it was so humiliating trying out. I was in a venue with 300 of the most beautiful, physically fit woman I've ever seen.
And they were avoiding you like the plague, I bet. They were like, who's this guy?
The vast majority, but one came up to me and she said, I so support what you're doing.
Oh, gosh.
And I thought, what? Stealing a position
Erasing
from a real
women? Come on. Well, God bless her. God bless her.
I tell you.
Do we have any more chats? Thank you.
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you so much. This is from Harper Will Always Be My P. Wonder how long before some bloke will sue the strip club that he is not allowed to dance with girls for men. Oh, no.
You know what? It's only a matter of time, isn't it? That's how far we've come. Sports is fun and games. Nobody's getting hurt when it comes to, it's completely unfair and egregious. But we have a society now, thanks to Justin Trudeau, where males, convicts, can simply say, I identify as female, no slicing and dicing of the genitalia, no hormone shots, and they are in a women's correctional facility, causing harm to real women. So the fact that a strip club would be ordered to give a stripping job to a guy, I could see that happening. I could see a human rights tribunal going that way.
Anything in the name of progress.
Yeah.
Let's read another chat here from Harper Will Always Be My P. Thank you. I agree. Doug is anything but Rob. I met Rob a few times and had dinner with him a couple times. That was a real PC gentleman with heart, unlike Dougie.
Totally agree, sir.
Yeah.
I met Rob Ford several times. I still pine for him. It was still such a loss for this city, this province, maybe this country, depending on where his political ambitions went. And a lot of people, including myself, thought Rob and Doug were, inseparable twins kind of thing. They were, no, as we found these last 4 years, nothing could be further from the truth, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a shame. From the same person, Harper Will Always Be My P. Thank you. I thought G7 Economy Canada was bottom, but could be wrong. Oh, our economy is the lowest, the worst?
You know what? I'll research that because I'm not sure.
That's something I'm not super knowledgeable on. Last one. All righty. This is the same one. Yes, sorry. Let's see here. All right, that's all.
All right, then.
I think that's the show.
Well, Natasha, thank you for co-hosting. Thank you for being my new co-host.
Anytime.
By the fact that you're not running away screaming into the office.
I'm going to cry later. No,
that's my
kidding.
benchmark for success, folks. So thank you to Natasha.
Thank you.
Super producer Efron, all of you who tuned in, especially all of you who gave a financial contribution that helps keeps the light on. And tomorrow there'll be two other Rebel News.
Andrew and Lewis will be hosting tomorrow.
Andrew and Lewis, always, I was going to say always full value for your dollar, but you're getting it free.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make sense. So enjoy Andrew and Lewis tomorrow. In the meantime, I'll be back with Sheila Gunn Reid on Thursday. And as always, stay sane.